She had a key to my apartment that I never gave her. That's the part I still can't explain. That's the part I keep coming back to even now, 3 years later. I changed my locks twice after what happened. I moved to a different city 8 months after that, and I still check my closet before I go to sleep every single night. Not because I think she's there, but because of what it felt like when I found out she had been. My name isn't important. I'm 31 now. I work in finance. I live alone. And I have not used a dating app since this happened. I want to be upfront about something before I get into it. I'm not a dramatic person. I don't exaggerate. My friends will tell you the same thing. I'm the guy who stays calm when everyone else is losing it. I say that because what I'm about to describe sounds extreme, and I need you to understand that I'm giving you the plain version. About 3 years ago, I was living in a one-bedroom apartment in Denver. I'd been single for about a year. After a long relationship ended and a friend of mine finally convinced me to try Hinge. I was reluctant, but I downloaded it. First week, nothing much. Second week, I matched with a woman named Rachel. Her profile looked completely normal. A few photos, she looked like a normal, attractive woman in her late 20s. She said she worked in healthcare, liked cooking, had a dog. We started messaging on the app and pretty quickly moved to texting. The conversation was easy. She was funny and attentive, and she asked good questions. After about 10 days, I asked if she wanted to get dinner. First date was at a restaurant near my place. She showed up on time, looked exactly like her photos, and we talked for almost 3 hours. I drove her back to her car and she texted me. When she got home, normal, completely normal. Second date, same. Third date, we got takeout and watched a movie at my apartment. She was at my place for maybe 4 hours. Used the bathroom a couple times. Normal visit, normal night. The fourth date was the last one we went on, though I didn't know that yet at the time. After the fourth date, something started feeling off. Not about her exactly, just this background. Sense that something in my apartment was slightly wrong. I'm the kind of person who is very particular about how I leave things. Drawers fully closed. Closet door shut all the way. Shoes lined up by the door. It's just how I am, always has been. My ex used to tease me about it constantly. So when I came home from work one evening and noticed that my closet door was open about 2 inches, I stopped. I stood in my bedroom doorway and I just looked at it. I thought back through my morning. I always close that door. I close it and I check it. I didn't remember leaving it open. I told myself I must have just forgotten. I closed it and went about my evening. 3 days later, same thing. Closet door open. 2 inches. Almost exactly the same as before. This time I also noticed that the small dish I keep my watch and my keys in on the dresser was rotated slightly. The dish has a chip on one side and I always position that chip facing away from me. It was facing toward me. That was the moment I felt it. That dropping feeling in your chest when your body understands something before your brain does. Someone had been in my apartment. I went through every rational explanation I could think of. Building maintenance? They would have left a notice. A friend with a spare key? Nobody had a spare key. I'd been careful about that ever since my last place. I didn't say anything to Rachel. I didn't want to accuse someone without being sure. What I did instead was set up a camera. Not a fancy system, just a small webcam. I pointed at the bedroom. Doorway from a shelf in my room. Angled to record when I was at work. I set it to motion detect and left for work the next morning. I came home that evening and the camera had recorded 14 minutes of footage. Rachel was in my apartment. She came in through the front door. She had a key. She walked straight to the bedroom like she knew exactly where she was going. She went through my dresser slowly and carefully, putting everything back when she was done. She sat on my bed for a while and didn't do anything. Just sat there. Then she went to my closet and stood inside it with the door mostly closed for almost 6 minutes. Then she left. I watched that footage 4 times before I could move. I called the police that night and showed them the recording. They went to Rachel's address, which I had from our text conversations, and spoke to her. She admitted to making a copy of my key. She said she'd done it during our third date, when my keys were on the kitchen counter, while I was getting plates. She said she hadn't taken anything or damaged anything. She said she just wanted to feel close to me. The detective who handled the case told me that technically what she had done constituted criminal trespass and potentially stalking. She was charged. I don't know what the outcome of those charges was because I moved before the case concluded, and I stopped following it because I needed to stop thinking about it. What I couldn't shake, what I still can't shake, is the 6 minutes in the closet. The detective asked her about it. She said she just liked being in my space. I've never been able to fully explain why that specific detail disturbs me, more than anything else. More than the key, more than the footage, more than the fact that she had been alone in my bedroom while I was at work. Something about 6 minutes standing in someone's dark closet, in silence alone. I don't have the words for what that is. I just know it's something I will never fully get out of my head. I check my closet every night. I probably always will. That was the first story. But what comes next is somehow even more disturbing. Honest about something before I tell this story. The night this happened, I made a bad decision. A series of them, actually. And I'm not telling this story to get sympathy, or to make myself sound like a victim of my own choices. I'm telling it because what those people were doing was organized and deliberate, and it could happen to anyone who doesn't know what to look for. I was 26. I'd been living in Nashville for about a year, new to the city, didn't know many people yet. A coworker suggested I try a dating app just to meet people. Not even necessarily for dating, just to have some social options in a new place. I downloaded a few of them. Tinder, Hinge, one called Coffee Meets Bagel that a friend had recommended. On Coffee Meets Bagel, I matched with a profile belonging to a woman named Simone. Her photos showed a woman in her late 20s, light brown hair, warm smile. Her bio said she was a graphic designer who had recently moved to Nashville from Atlanta. We had that in common, both new to the city. We started messaging. The conversation was good, easy. She was engaging and warm, and within a few days, she suggested we meet up in person. I said sure. I suggested a coffee shop I liked near my apartment. She said she had a better idea. She knew a spot near the riverfront that had a great view of the downtown skyline at night, and it would be way more memorable than a coffee shop. She sent me a pin for the location. I should have pushed back. I know that now. The location was in a quieter part of the riverfront, away from the main tourist areas. Not a lot of foot traffic at night. Everything about it was a flag. I didn't read correctly because I was new to the city and didn't know the area well enough to know what I was agreeing to. We agreed to meet at 9 p.m. on a Thursday. I drove to the location, a small parking area near the Riverwalk, and parked. There were 2 other cars in the lot. No people visible. I texted Simone that I had arrived. She said she was almost there, maybe 2 minutes. I waited, 5 minutes, 10. I texted again. She said she was parking and could. I walked down toward the water a bit, so she could spot me more easily. I walked maybe 60 feet from my car toward the riverbank. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around expecting to see Simone walking from the parking lot. Instead, there were 2 men walking toward me from that direction. They were moving with purpose, not jogging, not aggressive, but not casual either. The specific pace of people who are going somewhere, and that somewhere is you. I turned back toward the river. A third man was standing about 25 feet in front of me. He had come from the riverbank side, and I had not seen or heard him approach. He was just there. I had 3 men cutting off my path back to my car and 1 man between me and the river. I understood what was happening, not in a panicked way, in the very clear, very cold way that your brain gets when it realizes the actual situation you are in. I didn't wait to see what they wanted. I ran left along the bank, where there was a gap between the man in front of me and the tree line. He started running. I had maybe a 10-foot head start, and I used every bit of it. I sprinted along the riverbank until I hit a lit walking path, and then I kept running until there were other people around, a couple walking a dog, a food truck with a small crowd. I stopped there and bent over with my hands on my knees and tried to breathe. I stood there for several minutes watching the path behind me. Nobody followed me into the lit area. When I called the police, they traced the number I had been texting to a prepaid phone that was already turned off. By the time they looked into it, the dating profile was gone. The photos of Simone were pulled from a real woman's Instagram account. A woman who had no connection to any of this and had no idea her photos were being used. The detective who handled my case told me this was a pattern. Men lured to isolated locations through fake profiles. He said they had seen it before in that area. He said in most cases the victims got away before anything happened. which meant they never fully knew what the intended outcome was. He said I was lucky I ran when I did. I think about those three men a lot. The positioning, one on each side, one in front, all in place before I had even walked away from my car. That level of coordination means they had done this before. Multiple times, probably, with a system that worked well enough that they kept using it. I think about other people who agreed to meet. Simone had that riverfront location and didn't run. I think about what happened to them. I don't have an answer for that, and I never will. I deleted every app I had before I even got home that night. At least that story had an ending. This last one never will. This is the hardest one to tell because it doesn't end. Most scary things that happen to you eventually become a story with a beginning and a middle and an end. This one just keeps going. Even now, 2 years later, I think about it at least once a week. And I think about it because I still don't know what I escaped from. I just know that I escaped. I'm a 33-year-old woman. 2 years ago, I matched with a man named Daniel on Bumble. He was 36, said he was a landscape architect, had photos that showed someone who looked normal and kind. Good smile, warm eyes. Nothing in his profile that set off any alarm at all. We talked for 2 weeks before meeting. Texting every day, easy conversation. He was funny and thoughtful and asked questions that made it clear he was actually paying attention to what I said. After 2 weeks, I felt like I had a real sense of who he was. I felt comfortable. That's important to understand. I felt genuinely comfortable with him. Not naive comfortable, actually comfortable. Our first date was lunch. Easy, warm, 2 hours that felt like 45 minutes. Second date, coffee. Third, a walk in a park near his neighborhood. Fourth, dinner. Fifth, a movie. Each one was good. Each one was exactly what you'd want a date to be. On our sixth date, he invited me to his house for dinner. He said he liked to cook and wanted to make me a proper meal. I said yes. His house was a newer build on a quiet road about 20 minutes outside the city. A couple other houses visible down the road. A nice neighborhood, nothing unusual. Dinner was excellent. We talked for hours afterward. I felt completely at ease. Around 9:30, he said he wanted to show me something and led me toward a door offer. The kitchen that I had assumed was a pantry. He opened it and there was a staircase going down. He said he had a finished basement. He used as a home office and had just renovated it. He was proud of the work and wanted to show me. I hesitated for half a second and then followed him down. The basement was finished, carpeted, walls painted a neutral gray, a desk and bookshelf on one wall, good lighting. He walked me through it, pointed out the work he'd done on the ceiling. I nodded and said the right things. But the first thing I had noticed when I reached the bottom of the stairs was that there were no windows. And the second thing I noticed was that the door at the top of the stairs had swung shut behind us. Both of those things registered somewhere below the level of conscious thought. I filed them without reacting to them. I kept listening to him talk about the renovation. After a few minutes, I told him I was going to head back up and get some water. Kept my voice easy, no alarm in it. I went to the staircase and pushed the door at the top. It didn't open. I pushed again. Harder, nothing, not stuck hard, locked hard, the kind of resistance you feel when something is held in place, not jammed. I turned around. Daniel was standing at the bottom of the staircase looking up at me. And this is the part I think about the most, his expression. It was completely neutral. Not alarmed that I was struggling with the door. Not apologetic. Not anything. Just a face with nothing on it, watching me push against a door that wouldn't open. He came up the stairs and reached past me and pushed the door. It opened immediately. No resistance at all. Like a normal door on a normal hinge with nothing wrong with it whatsoever. He said it sticks sometimes, and he keeps meaning to fix it. He said it casually, like it was a minor annoyance. Like we had just experienced a small inconvenience together. I got my bag. I told him I wasn't feeling well and needed to go. He walked me to the front door and said he hoped I felt better. I got to my car. I drove for 20 minutes before. I pulled over because my hands were shaking enough that I didn't trust myself on the highway. I sat in a parking lot and tried to decide whether what had just happened was something or nothing. The door sticking has a perfectly normal explanation. A windowless basement is not a crime. A neutral expression is not evidence of anything. I had no proof that anything had been wrong, but here is what I could not explain away. When I pushed that door, it did not give at all, not a millimeter, and when Daniel pushed it 30 seconds later, it swung open without any effort. Same door, same frame, 30 seconds apart. I told a friend what happened, and she said I had probably just spooked myself, maybe. I tried to believe that. About 6 weeks later, I was at a work event and got talking to a woman named Christine, who I knew casually through a mutual colleague. Somehow we got onto the topic of dating apps. I don't even remember how. And she mentioned she had been seeing someone she met on Bumble, a landscape architect. I asked his name. She said Daniel. I kept my voice even and asked if he had ever had her over to his house. She said yes once a few weeks ago. I asked if he had shown her the basement. She went quiet for a second. Then she said yes. She said they had gone down to look at his renovation, and when she went to leave the door at the top of the stairs, had stuck and he'd had to open it for her. I had never told Christine anything about my experience before she said that. We had not spoken about Daniel at all before that conversation. She described the same door, the same moment, the same expression on his face. She used the word blank, and the same ease with which he opened it after she couldn't. I went home that night and sat with that information for a long time. I don't know what Daniel is. I don't know if the door was rigged, or if it was genuinely sticking both times by coincidence, or if something else entirely was happening. I don't know what he intended. I don't know how many other women went down those stairs. I don't know if all of them came back up. What I know is that two women who had never compared notes independently described the exact same moment in the exact same house with the exact same man and the exact same expression on his face. Christine stopped seeing him after I told her what had happened to me. She reported him to Bumble and his profile was removed within a few days. We reported him to the local police, but without evidence of a crime. There was nothing they could do. Daniel is still out there. He might be on a different app now with a different profile. He might be having dinner with someone right now in that house. He might be walking someone toward that door. I think about that a lot, probably more than I should. But I don't think I'll ever fully stop. Some things don't give you closure. They just give you the rest of your life to think about them.